Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. We have a guest tonight. Our guest is Coleman. It's Watts, right?
That's right.
Coleman Watts. Yep. Coleman Watts from the Think This Through channel, which is you debunk conspiracy theories on YouTube, right?
I call it conspiracies, cults, and cons is sort of my theme.
Nice. Yeah.
The three C's.
Yeah, they're
I like alliteration, I guess.
Yeah,
Man after my own heart.
Coleman's videos are very entertaining. Right now, there's one that you may have already seen about Terrence Howard and everything that's going on there. So check that out. But let's dive right in, Coleman. So tonight we want to talk about conspiracy theories and like coming out. I saw you at Skeptic Camp in Raleigh the beginning of May, I think it was.
Right.
And that was you had a very energetic and I was a little irritated that I had to go after you in that presentation because I was like, oh, I was really hoping to be the fun one today. And
One day you will be, Mike. One day you will be.
Yeah, on this podcast, I'm never the funny one. But so, why don't you? Yeah, if you want to just give us a quick intro to yourself beyond that.
Oh wow. Sure. Everything about myself.
No, just like
to start when you were like the high points of when like toddler memories, first or most embarrassing sexual experience, or that kind of background.
God, I'm getting flashbacks.
You did a quick.
I'm getting flashbacks from the Terrence Howard episode I did where he said, "I woke up inside my mother's womb and I was conscious and I knew physics." So yeah, that's basically my story. I'll take that.
Sweet. No, I mean like so the thing that you talked about at Skeptic Camp was how you had to some extent been a conspiracy theorist,
right,
and had come out of that, and you kind of gave us a breakdown of what your channel is, but you also kind of gave us a breakdown of who you were in that, and that's you don't have to obviously like completely recap your speech, but if you wanted to give us a
totally, I'm happy to. I conspiracy theories are fascinating, I think, and I think it's more fascinating now that I'm in the debunking world instead of in the rabbit hole itself. But I didn't start off in the rabbit hole. I think I started off as a pretty normal person. But as I said in my presentation, my brain wasn't thinking according to the scientific method. I think my brain was doing what normal human brains do, which is to take anything that seems kind of interesting or useful that comes along and just sort of tuck it away in your brain pockets. And so if I saw, if I heard about this alternative healing modality, I like healing. Sure, I'll give it a try. I mean, my friends say that it works, so cool. I'll learn about that, or go to the chiropractor because I've heard from other family members and friends that works, and so I'll do that. Or if I went to see a psychic once, that was enlightening. I had a past life regression one time, and learned about who I was in a past life, who just happened to be exactly the same as the character in the last book that I'd read. But who knows? Probably just a coincidence. I got my.
That's what drove you to read that book, because you associate so much with the character.
It's the law of attraction at work, and I got my mantra from the Transcendental Meditation guru. So paid for that course and went through that course and learned how to sit and do nothing. It's an important life skill, and you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
they do it at work. I mean, they don't know it, but
yeah. So I would use homeopathic medicine sometimes, and I don't think any of this is like really weird, like maybe a little weird, but
that's what I was just about to say. Is when you mentioned it at the talk and now, I feel like it is a good for me as somebody who is not particularly familiar with that stuff from personal experience, but only learning about it afterwards. I don't feel like it sounds like you know like, oh, look at this weirdo, like, I mean, there's a lot of that times where we look at people who believe in conspiracy theories or a cult or a different religion, and we're like, how the fuck did they get there? And
Right.
everything you just said, I'm like, oh, that's like that I can see how that is a pretty natural progression. I can, like, that was pretty simple. I know a ton of people who've been to a psychic reading, and they maybe did it just for fun, and these are like simple steps. The homeopathy thing is relatively new to me, but I think that I have, I've never knew about it before, like what the details were, but you meet somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I got some of this.
I think technically the less details you know about it, the more you know about it in the case of homeopathy.
That's what I
The
can
less
count on.
the less you know, the better it is. Right. You have to open your mind to the not knowing of the knowing, and then
Yeah.
you'll know that you don't
I
know.
went through a phase where I sent letters to a lot of pharmacies and grocery stores with pharmacy sections complaining about the fact that they had homeopathy products right next to medicines, and like some poor young parent who doesn't know the difference is going to buy something for their sick kid that's not going to help their sick kid.
Yeah.
Though I guess most cough medicines don't really help that much either. But and I got no responses for that. None of them
Yeah.
wrote back saying, I was like, please talk to the pharmacists who you employ about the
Surprise,
quality of these
surprise.
things that you're selling. And no
Yeah.
responses.
Before listening to like atheist podcasts and stuff, I would not have known at all if somebody that I was hanging out with had grabbed a bottle of something. I would have been like, it's just a medicine that they
And
use.
I guess
Like,
Coleman, since you're the expert, can you describe what homeopathy is real fast? Since we have people who are listening, I'm sure, who are not steeped in skepticism and don't know what we're just referring to kind of randomly.
Absolutely. I did a whole video about it on my channel, and I do actually do some research for these videos. So I learned a lot from that because all I knew before was ancient wisdom. It works because of magical properties, and I had no idea. Like ancient wisdom, enough said. Just use it, right? And um, what I learned in my research is that it's not that ancient. It
That's
dates
ancient.
back to, yeah. I mean, it depends. Like I've got some ancient soy sauce in my fridge that's maybe ripe for being a little
Everything's relative.
yeah. Um,
For a head of
but
lettuce, very ancient.
yes, yes, which makes it sacred. But so this was invented in the 1700s by an Austrian or German dude who had a medical degree, but at that time, medical science wasn't really a thing. So they knew some anatomy, they knew about the four humors and evil spirits
leeches.
and things like that. And at that time, medicine, seeing a doctor was just as likely to kill you as it was to cure you because they had no idea what they were doing. And so he came up with this idea um, that he called it the law of similarities. And he said, well, like must cure like, because if you have a tummy ache, you could take some arsenic, and that would help to, a very dilute amount. You could take some arsenic, and it would help with the tummy ache because arsenic causes a tummy ache. So a very small amount, it's like inoculation, which is actually a thing. But
It's amazing that he stumbled upon the theory of vaccinations, but with total bullshit.
And
right, right,
probably
right. He had this idea that's what we would call now inoculation. So, but he would take the substance and he would basically dilute it so that there was nothing left. I mean, he would dilute it like 1,000 times until you couldn't detect it with an electron microscope anywhere in the bottle of water anymore because it had been diluted so much. And now the magical memory of the water was going to transmute the healing properties of the poison to you. And that's how it works.
to be fair to him, at that time, he probably was one of the best doctors.
Yeah. So his medicine had zero side effects and caused zero, problems.
Yeah.
So it was probably the best medicine around.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to love watching videos of the late great James Randi, the amazing Randi, who would start a lot of his talks by taking out a package of a homeopathic medicine that they bought like at a drugstore, unscrewing it and drinking the entire thing down,
Yeah.
or taking
He
the
would
entire
he
thing
would
in
swallow
pills.
an entire bottle of
Yeah,
sleeping pills, homeopathic sleeping pills.
like not very concerned there's going to be any side effects or any effects.
Yeah.
From what I learned about some homeopathic manufacturers, I would be concerned because
Yeah,
there
yeah, there's
there
that.
have been they're not well regulated. There have been problems found. Sometimes oops, they forget to dilute the arsenic. And so I would not always trust that.
Yeah. And yeah, just for contamination of things. I mean, some like real vitamin supplement companies, aren't super regulated. If they don't make claims, they're not super regulated, and they can have, 50% sawdust and 50%, then, there's no dosage requirements and ingredient requirements in some of the fly by night companies. So you probably don't need vitamins unless you have a specific medical need. But if you do, pick your vitamin supplement company carefully.
You never know.
While we're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because it's natural supplement doesn't mean it's actually good for you. I mean, there's lots of natural things that can kill you.
Yeah, yeah. My mother falls prey for that kind of stuff a lot. She's in her 80s. Maybe she'll takes a million different pills, and she's better now that she's older and taking actual medications and being told by her doctor she can't take as many of the herbal stuff as she used to take. And she's saying, have the natural fallacy of it's natural. And I'm like, so is rattlesnake venom. Doesn't mean it's good for you. Yeah, mom, you want me to go in the back and pick some wild mushrooms randomly and put them in a salad? Natural. We'll see what happens.
Random ones, yeah. I don't know about that. There's a few good wild
Yeah.
ones, but
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're
most
doing, great.
yeah.
But just random,
Hmm.
I'll brush the shit off it. It's fine. And
Right.
yeah, that's all. That natural does not mean healthy.
So I don't know if I'm alone in this, but my path to skepticism actually went through the world of um, conspiracy theory. It
See,
was like,
you are alone in that,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
which is cool.
okay,
No, actually, Mike had brought up a while ago, I guess probably after Skeptic Camp. And just I should mention real fast for those who don't know what Skeptic Camp is, our friends, but the local one we were talking about, our friends, my friends in Triangle, Skeptics, tryskeptic.org, did their first hopefully annual Skeptic Camp, bringing in skeptical speakers to talk about various topics and have workshops. Back, I think it was Memorial Day weekend, and it went super well, and we're super excited for them. So check out tryskep.org, skep with a K. Um,
yeah. My whole talk is
um,
on there. Lots of other talks. Some great
Yep.
yeah,
stuff.
and so actually right after I was supposed to be there, but then I got a paying acting gig, so I went and did my paying acting gig instead. Uh, but Mike was
Nice.
like, "We should talk about coming out of conspiracy theory," and I was like, "I don't know, I can't. I mean, I was raised atheist, so I didn't even come to atheism through any story, and then but getting involved in atheist podcasts and community, I learned more about skepticism and realized, oh, my dad raised me a skeptic. I just wasn't aware. He was a pharmacist and science background, so we were raised with a lot of rationality." So I learned my skepticism. Like I learned the bullshit that I didn't believe in, kind of not believing it. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't feel comfortable us having a conversation about it because I have like neither of us have any background in the experience. And like he was so inspired by your talk, he wanted to talk about it. So it's great that you're here, so we have someone who has some of the experience to actually speak with authority on it, or at
Nice.
least
Yeah.
it's personal authority, not an appeal to authority. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's not an appeal to authority. It's just
Fallacy.
one anecdote that is interesting and enlightening to go with the factual things that we have researched.
Hi everybody, this is Editing Mike, and I just wanted to make a quick note because you'll probably notice that there's something weird we cut out here, and you'll notice that it jumps a little bit. There is a topic that we talk about for a little bit that we would almost certainly have the video removed from YouTube and possibly have some issues with on other podcast platforms. It is we talk about anti-vax stuff. That's all I want to say about that right now. If you want to check it out, we're going to make it available on the $3 patron level. I promise this isn't a squeeze for money. This is just a matter of behind a paywall. It's easier to protect that, and we don't say anything that YouTube would have a problem with, except that the AI tends to just hear certain terms and just immediately shut it off. So that's the whole reason why. But otherwise, just keep enjoying the show. Thank you.
So yeah, so I believed in that, and then a friend sent me. This was in the like early 2000s or late 2000s. This DVD at the time it was of a documentary about 9/11, and you can probably guess which one or one
Hmm.
of those ilk. And I was like, wow, I never knew this. And again, I wasn't going out and just like doing my own research, which is what the conspiracy theorists tell you to do. But I wasn't. Like, I would watch this documentary and be like, oh my God, like it's a giant
Yeah.
conspiracy, it's a giant cover up. And so I just believed it because it seemed plausible and sort of confirmed my biases about the government, and especially, the dude that was in office at the time. And so, yeah, it all just
Yep.
sort of clicked. And so, so I sort of went through my life not, I mean, these things didn't consume me. I wasn't like on a street corner ranting about these things, but they sunk in a little bit. And
Yep.
so, so all of that, I think, primed me to get sucked into the um sort of internet cult that I got sucked into, which was, probably the best way to describe it would be like proto QAnon. This was like
Okay.
back, this was like in the days leading up to Pizzagate and around
Hmm.
that time, like before QAnon was a thing, but when those forces were sort of swirling around together. Um, and, so looking back on it, it's like, how could I have gotten sucked into that kind of world?
Yeah.
But there were some very convincing, sort of authoritative people in that world who, were very good at what they did of
Hmm.
convincing you that they knew what they were talking about. And also, let me just sort of go through the little recruitment spiel here. So, so how do you know that you that how do you know that the political beliefs that you have are right? Other people have other political beliefs. Have you considered those? How do you know that the religious beliefs that you have are the correct ones? How do you know that your religion is right and all the other religions in the world are wrong? Have you ever really thought about it? Have you ever done the research into this? Because what if I told you that most of the people with your beliefs haven't thought about it at all? They're just going along with what their family and friends told them. They haven't really thought about it. And if you argue with them, they'll just get upset. They'll just get upset with you for contradicting them. Well, being upset is not an argument, is it? So do you want to be like that? Or do you want to be a reasonable and rational person who actually does research and actually bases your beliefs on science, on reason, on logic? Look at all the logical fallacies that all these people with your beliefs are committing on the internet. Do you want to be like them? Or do you want to join us? Join us because we have the answers. We've done the reasoning, we've done the logic. And if you join us, then you will find that this challenges all of your relationships. And you will find that if you start telling people what you now believe, they'll get angry with you. And you might have to leave those friendships, leave those relationships. If you can't recruit those people, because obviously they need to be saved. And so they need to come aboard our reasonable and rational alt-right train that's heading off towards, um, the great white hope, or you just have to cut off those relationships. And you'll find that you are like the great philosophers of old who are coming out of Plato's cave into the light of the day and seeing the world for what it really is. You're taking the red pill. Join us and accept the truth.
I mean, it's a rational and intelligent argument until you get to the point of, now we did the thinking for you. Like we just said how important it is not to believe what you were told by other people. But join us and we've already thought of it. We'll tell you what to believe now. It's kind of we're going to empty the glass of your current beliefs and knowledge. And
Yep.
then don't worry about filling it yourself. We'll fill it for you. Because like everything made sense up until we join us because we'll tell you what's right.
Right. And actually, that sort of letting go of old beliefs and questioning old beliefs. So in that time, I started to look at some other things that I had believed, like new age spirituality, alternative medicine, homeopathy, and being like, wow, that's all bullshit. These people are really onto something because I'm learning that some of the things that I believed were not true, right?
Right.
And so it wasn't until it wasn't until that world sort of imploded my life and my relationships and caused real harm in my personal life that I had to step back from it and use that same question everything mentality on the new thinking that I
Yeah.
that I
Right.
was
Like you have to
accepting.
have the question everything mentality, but then have rational tools to question things rather than just find something else you like to replace the other things.
Right, and also, when I was in that conspiracy, sort of, yeah, proto QAnon world, I was also learning new things about philosophy and also about logical fallacies. So, but the all of the information that I was learning about logical fallacies was basically how to use them as a weapon to win arguments on the internet.
Right.
Right. So
Rather than
logic.
turning them against your own beliefs, which is what they're intended for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think
So
our
I
side
was
sometimes is guilty of that too, though, of the
right.
weaponizing them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think most people use it for that
Yeah,
when it's supposed to be pressure test your own argument by making sure you're not using any fallacies is what the
yeah,
proper, I'm not going to say proper, but what the healthy use of it is. Because if we go back to people who told you, Mike, that Jenny McCarthy's an idiot, so why listen to her? That's a fallacy. It's like just the opposite of the
yeah,
appeal to authority, saying because the person saying it is dumb, therefore it's wrong. She could be saying something that's correct. She could be repeating
yeah,
a true thing just as easily as a wrong thing.
yeah.
So that's not a reason to not believe about vaccines. It's
Yep.
more of a maybe it's a reason to say, well, I don't trust her word on it. I'm going to go look it up myself. But it doesn't mean it's wrong just because she said it.
Right.
right. So all
So
those things like appeal to emotion, argument from authority, ad hominem, all of those logical fallacies, I was learning, but I was learning them the wrong way. And then what I started to realize was that the people who were actually leaders in this group were doing all those things themselves, especially the appeal to emotion. There's so much appeal to emotion in that world.
yeah,
Even though they always slap it with a whitewash of logic and reason, it's underneath it all is just fear tactics and groupthink and us versus them kind of
yeah.
knee jerk stuff.
And I think
One of
they're
the
really good at
things,
weaponizing begging the question in the traditional sense of begging the question of setting up a question where their answer is the only answer.
yeah,
And
Hmm.
then when they answer the wrong question, like brilliant, that does answer it perfectly, but they wrote the question, so of course it does.
one of the things that I thought was really interesting about your talk was, I'm forgetting exactly how you worded it, but you said the things that they teach you in that mentality are everyone has a agenda. There's like 3 or 4 points that you had, and then you said,
Yeah,
and when I applied that logic, it absolutely applied to them.
I think I
If
remember that part. So yeah, the conspiracy mindset is that yes, there's a secret agenda, and that that there's and that there's a narrative, right? And
hmm
so you're being fed a narrative, and so
yes,
you need to watch out for that. You need to watch out for this mainstream narrative that's lying to you. And then you know what I realized later was that, oh my God, this is a narrative. Like this
hmm
whole like conspiracy mindset, red pill mindset, that's a narrative. So everything that they were accusing everybody else of doing is what
yep,
they were doing.
yeah. That
Like
was I. As somebody who's not connected with that world much other than watching videos breaking that stuff down, that was really mind blowing to kind of think like, oh, if these people, the fans and the followers are really actually listening to the process, they would get themselves out of it to some extent. That's kind of amazing. It's like usually we usually tend to foolproof our structures so that we're not figuring setting you up to get out of the situation if we're badly intent.
But I see a connection with this with I have friends who are not in not actively in atheist skeptic community, but friends who my improv comedy would identify as atheists, but they believe in superstitions like ghosts and stuff, and supernatural things like that, because they didn't come to their atheism through skepticism. They
Hmm.
just didn't agree with religion. And whatever tools they used to debunk religion to themselves, they did not turn on anything else. Like
Yeah.
I would say, like if you're a good skeptic, eventually you'll be an atheist because eventually you'll apply your skepticism to your religion and realize it fails the tests. But you can be a
Hmm.
really good atheist without having any skeptical tools and still be fall for everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have blind spots. We all have something we're not aware we haven't properly analyzed, but
Yeah.
some people have a lot.
Yeah, I mean, since the culty sort of conspiracy group that I was a part of was an atheist group, I've been kind of a little bit put off of that whole thing. Not I don't like go around waving that flag, and
Hmm.
I kind of just wish that I could just call myself a normal person who's not religious. Like, why do we have to have a label at
Yeah.
all? Like, isn't
Yeah,
isn't the
that's
norm
fine.
just not being religious?
I wish it was. It should be the default. My dad used to always say that, I don't believe in God or anything, but I don't like the word atheist because it's political. It's got an agenda, the word.
Mhm.
Until he moved to North Carolina, well, from New York, where suddenly religion had an agenda and had a legal thing. And I said, oh, now I get it. Now I get why you want to stand up to it. I have a friend, Candace Gorham. She's a published author and psychologist, and she speaks on the atheist circuit a lot, about psychology issues and atheism, grief and grieving and atheism and such. And she talks in a lot of her talks that when she came out of religion, she was a preacher. Well, when she came out of religion, she happened to be in North Carolina and joined my group, Triangle Free Thought Society, as the first organization she joined. And she has often said, if you weren't the first organization, I would, I've met so many shitty ones, afterwards that were either
Mm,
misogynist or just, or racist, or incidentally racist that just happen to be all white kind of thing, but they're not preaching it, but full of racism that they don't recognize kind of thing, not actively negative, just
Yeah.
holding themselves back. And she goes, somebody that just unhealthy, that if that had been the first group I was ever engaged with, I never would have looked for another atheist group again as I moved
mhm.
around the country. She goes, I'm just lucky I met you guys first, and we were humanists first and foremost, and that was welcoming. So I
Right.
get what you're saying. That you could do an atheist group. That's terrible because there's nothing inherently about atheism that makes you a skeptic or that makes
Yeah.
you a good person. As most people like to say, religion makes you bad, therefore atheism makes you good, and that is not a logical opposite. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think not having religion makes you anything.
Yeah, it's just an answer to one question. You got one question right. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because I would have guessed that I knew who the answer to this question was, but then you said that it was atheist. That it was or atheistic conspiracy theories. Is there a figurehead that you followed that? If you don't want to say, I understand. But like, I was thinking you meant Alex Jones before you when you said proto. Um, I forget how you worded it, but when you said that, I was like, oh,
Proto
Alex
QAnon.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you said atheist. I'm like, oh, not Alex Jones. So I'm just,
Close. So there's another dude. He actually worked with Alex Jones some, and his name was Stefan Molyneux, and
oh,
he was
okay.
an atheist libertarian. He called himself a philosopher. He was uh, kind of an internet cult leader,
Yeah.
and so I got sucked into his world.
Okay. Matthew, have you heard of him before?
Yes, I'm not
Okay.
expert in it, but I've heard the name,
So
tossed around. More
so
some of the
I
more modern ones are the ones I hear about more often now. But I don't think any of the modern ones I know about are as far as he is towards like a QAnon type thing. They're
I
He
more just like
went he
light
went
red pilling.
Yeah, he went farther than QAnon. Like
okay.
he was full white nationalist
Yeah.
when YouTube booted him off of the platform.
Right. And that's
And
what I was just about to
and he
add was he I think got deplatformed in an effective way because I know who he is and I know very little about the specifics of him because of how he was deplatformed. I think like where we still hear about Alex Jones quite a bit, even though
mhm,
he has been largely deplatformed. I think Stefan
yeah,
Molyneux is kind of a relic in some ways. Is that relatively accurate?
Yeah, I mean, he and Richard Spencer and Alex Jones were all deplatformed, I think, on the same day.
Oh,
Um,
Hmm.
okay.
yeah, so talk about a conspiracy. But yeah, I mean, I think he's really just fallen into obscurity at this point. He had a huge audience at one point in the. He was like he was one of the big, rallying cries for Trump in 2015 and 2016, and then he just went even way further,
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole, and I jumped off shortly after that, and he just kept on going, and right off a cliff, I think.
Okay. Uh,
So I'm glad I wasn't still on that train when it went over a cliff.
yeah. Yeah.
We're glad for you as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Um, was there something specific about him that made you jump at that point, or was just when it all started to unravel for you?
Yeah, it was when it unraveled in my personal life. Like,
Okay.
I mean, the people. So I had some people in my life that were also following him, and the way that he the way that he handles relationships is uh not to diagnose anybody, but basically exactly like somebody with narcissistic personality would handle relationships. And so the guy is a human wrecking ball, and the people, and he teaches that kind of skill set of how to be a human wrecking ball and how to blow up all the relationships around you. And so I experienced that firsthand, and put the pieces back together over the next couple of years. And everything's good now. But he's continued to do that, and the people that are still in that world are continuing to do that.
I mean, I think that helps build his world too. If you don't have anyone outside the world to talk to, it just reinforces what I'm saying is true because everyone that's left for you to talk to agrees with you. You're creating a
Yeah.
literal echo chamber.
I hadn't looked
Yeah.
into him at all in years, but just like a couple weeks ago, just out of curiosity, I looked him up. He's still podcasting on Rumble and other platforms that allow him, and I looked in. He was live streaming at that moment when I looked into him, because of course
Hmm.
he was, and all he was talking about was his grievances. All he was talking about was he was going through his enemies list. He was talking about all the people that are out to get him, all the big tech companies that have conspired against him, all of the people that all the people that said that they supported him that have abandoned him. Like, it was just went on, and I just turned it off. But that's that's the kind of person that he is.
Yeah. And it's ironic that like one of the early hooks, as you said, was the people who get upset during an argument lose the argument. They're wrong because they're upset, and then those people get so upset. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They Yes. Yes. The facts don't care about your feelings crowd really gets their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
So, have you been able to be an anchor or a life, have you been able to help anybody
How many
that's been
people have
coming
you
out of
pulled
it,
out?
or just have you just been there for somebody who's been pulled out? Doesn't necessarily mean you've actually
You know, or even
pulled
just
them.
got messages for your channel saying, because I watch your channel, I'm a healthier person.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, that's where I came to, is starting a YouTube channel. And um right now the YouTube channel is just sort of building an audience and doing what I think I do best, which is just being kind of entertaining while also trying to be informative. So
yeah,
I'm not giving like the kind of advice that somebody who is in crisis would need.
yeah,
I'm just trying to be an entertaining presence, hopefully sort of a voice of reason on the internet, of people that just want to be entertained. Um, but yeah, I tried having some conversations with people after I got out of the world and after I got my own life sort of back in order.
yeah,
And um, I mean, it was very fascinating, because eventually what those conversations always came to would be accusing me of being a brainwashed shill. And at that point, what can I say?
yeah. But okay, I guess what I was trying to ask too is like, you said you had friends that were into this too. Any of them that were kind of unraveling already that you were just there as a life support, that you've been able to kind of say, "Yeah, if you want to talk about it, I can," but not necessarily somebody that you went and intentionally had a conversation with, just somebody that you were. Have you had that success?
Yeah, I know a couple people that were really into him, and I've just sort of kept in touch with them over the years, and listened, and just sort of followed along, and just sort of, I think just sort of being there is the best you can do, because
Mhm.
arguing is just going to push the person away.
Right.
You it's the internet is full of the worst possible examples of how to engage with people. You don't want to argue, you don't want to insult them, you don't want to belittle them, you don't want to just win or make them feel stupid.
Yep.
You don't just want to throw a bunch of facts at them, because who cares about facts really when it comes down to it, especially the facts don't care about your feelings crowd. And so what what you can do is just be a friend and be supportive, and also occasionally share a little nugget of like, hey, today I learned this, that's interesting, what do you think?
Yep.
That's about as the gentle touch approach I've found is best.
Good. Yeah.
So anybody out there that has a friend or knows somebody who is in that world, and I still am in touch with a few people like that, um, I definitely recommend, just first and foremost, letting them know that you're there for them, letting them know that you're gonna be a friend to them no matter what, and anything that they want to talk about, you're happy to listen, um, and that and you can also honestly say, I'm not convinced by this, but if you want to share more with me, I'll listen.
Hmm.
And the fact that you're listening and friendly, but also the fact that you are being honest and saying, well, this isn't convincing to me, I think is can help a person get a little bit of an anchor and get a little bit of a handle on, it can be helping to throw them a lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Mike is trying to get to is that I was that for him when he left religion, and he's just trying to thank me again because he owes his life to me. And I understand. I understand that.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
honestly, that is not the case. Well, Matthew is the last straw because I was so close.
Is that the way we phrase that? I was the last
Yeah,
straw.
that's after that statement. Yeah, that's how I'm going to phrase it.
That was he was like climbing out on the boat, and one foot was still in the water, and I was like, "Hey, wait, hold them
No,
in."
but what I will say is, out of my own, the reason I ask that question, I have asked it a couple times at other functions to other people, is obviously we want to reach people as best as possible and in a compassionate way, and but in an effective way. And I have found personally, and it kind of goes with what you just said, that if I just talk about my experience and let that be open and knowledge, and let people know that I'm open to talk about it if you have questions. So like, and it's not just atheism. I'm bipolar, and I have been always open about the fact that I'm bipolar, and I get people who will come up to me and say, "Oh, I was actually diagnosed. I haven't talked to anybody about it, but um, it's cool to know that because there's certain things that we don't want to talk about in good company or whatever. And I
mhm.
think that's what I've found is effective, and it sounds somewhat similar to what you're saying. And if that's the case, that's good. That's how I will
Yeah.
You get
keep
more
keep
flies with
going.
honey than you do with vinegar.
Well, and I think it's not even about like looking for it. It's more just being like, hey guys, like my door's always open, kind of, for that, to talk about
Yeah, exactly.
bipolar or whatever.
And I think it can really help somebody to know that there's more than just the two types of people in the world that they're being taught, which is, when you're
Yep.
if you've taken the red pill, if you're really like into whatever it is that you're into, then there's two types of people in the world. There's people that have taken the red pill with you and are there with you and see the truth. And then there's the normies who just don't, the NPCs, the people who just don't get it, the people who have never woken up, the people who are sleepwalking through life, right? Is one of the
Hmm.
two, or maybe the third type of person is the suppressor, the person who's conspiring to keep it all a secret, right? So there's those people, and to meet somebody who has seen what they've seen and has looked into it the same way that they have, and has actually looked at all of their videos and looked at all of their research and looked at all of their stuff, and is still not convinced and has some logical reasons why they're not convinced. That's just like breaking down the fourth wall. That's not in the script. So I
Right.
think that can be helpful.
Great.
With a little bit of street epistemology thrown in, look, questions that help them later on think about. Like
Yeah.
not trying to win an argument, but just those questions that help them later on analyze their own beliefs a little more in the privacy of their own home, where it's not an attack on their ego.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Matthew, do you have any other questions? I know I told you 45 minutes roughly, and I don't want to keep you too long. I don't know what you've got planned, Coleman. So, but Matthew, do you have any more questions for
Sure.
Coleman, or
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to have questions. Nobody gave me homework to write questions.
that's fine. If you don't have them, that's fine. I just want to. What I don't want to do is sign off before we've all, like I was going to start plug in the thinking this through channel.
Go ahead,
Or
plug all you
think
want.
think this through, right? Or is
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
Get the name right if you're going to plug it. First of all, I've got some tips.
I have it right in all the writing, but I never remember stuff off the top of my head correctly.
Think this through.
Think this through.
Right. And funny little story about that. So I originally wanted to call the channel Think It Through, and then my wife came up to me one day before I took that. I was about to like take that domain name, and she was like, "Coleman, do you realize what the acronym for that channel would be?" And I was like, "Oh no, I would never ever hear the end of people saying he didn't think this through." So
Great. That's
and
a
you get your
great.
alliteration. Well, at least when you abbreviate it.
yep.
Yeah. So if for listeners, if you want to check out Coleman's videos, which are really entertaining and educational, you can go to Think This Through channel on YouTube. It'll be linked in all of our show notes on everything. Do you have anything else you want to plug, Coleman, or I know that's your big thing, but
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if you got
my
anything to say.
thing. That's my thing. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you. This was great. Well, you are welcome to stay, but Matthew and I are going to do our quick spiel for patrons and subscribing and all the other crap, which is fun because Matthew gets real obscene while
All
I'm
right,
doing my
I'll let
part.
you
He
guys
does.
take over. I'll let you guys take over.
Once the
Go
sex is
for it.
starting, I'm out of
Thank
here.
Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming.
Coleman. This was very enlightening, and I'm very happy that we waited to do this topic with someone who had more intelligent things to say than us.
I'm
Yes,
glad we got to
absolutely.
connect. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right,
Great.
see you
Thank
later.
you.
And just everyone, it is literally on YouTube. Think This Through channel. Like, so it's like youtube.com/@ Think This Through channel.
Yeah.
So when Mike said channel, he meant it.
Okay, Matthew, can
So
you see
speaking
it
of
or
YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, is that a good segue? If you're watching us on YouTube right now, I hope by now, because you were so enthralled with what you heard, you already hit the like button for this video. And because you were so engaged, you've already said, I need to make a comment and talk about this. I have something to share or to challenge or to agree. So go ahead and make comments. The algorithm loves that, and we get to build some community. Um, and you know what? If you want us to have more videos like this, let us know by subscribing to the channel right now, because we will see in our metrics that the subscription came from watching this video, and we'll know this is the kind of thing you want to see, not the crap we normally churn out.
yeah?
And if you want to see the crap we normally churn out, hit the ding-a-ling-a-ling bell that will ding-a-ling-a-ling whenever we churn out more crap. Because when we crap, it goes down.
And if you're listening to this podcast, not live, and I'm
I
assuming
didn't
not
say
on
live, I said YouTube. What's the matter with you?
YouTube, whatever. Anyway, if you're listening to
This
this
is what I have to deal with, people. This is the level of professionalism. He thinks video and live are the same thing. He thinks like when he watched Smurfs as a kid, he ran outside to look for them because he goes, I can see them. They're outside right now. He thinks it's all happening at the moment. You know, he has like the aphantasia thing where he can't picture things in his mind. So he doesn't understand that things you're seeing are not happening live. He just thinks they must all be happening live because the idea of like a recorded video is foreign to him. I have to deal with this all the time. Literally, we went to the movies and we were watching like a revamp of Jaws, right? It was a revival of Jaws, and he wouldn't wash his hands because he thought there was a shark in the sink. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You tell me.
If you're listening to this podcast, please give us 5 stars or a thumbs up, whatever your podcast app allows. Uh, you could also give us a review. That would be great. Though, yeah, that would be very helpful to us. If you want to help us in a money way, you can give us $1 a month by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. That does get you every episode 4 days early. Or you can go on
4 days
Patreon.
before we actually record it?
days before the release. So the regular RSS release is on Friday, and the early release is on Monday.
So you have a
All about
whole week to watch it before we record it.
4 days.
Well, work week.
Matt,
So what he's trying to say is, if you want it
of
early, you can
course.
get it early on Apple by subscribing for $1 a week, or you can go to patreon.com/, talking about the big stuff, where there's options: a buck option, a $3 option, a free option, a $10 option, $175.32 option. Mike, tell him about those options.
Okay, there's a $1 option. The show is 4 days before the regular feed version. There is a $3 version, which is $3 a month, gets you not unedited, but like a lot of extra bonus content. Like this
Less
episode,
edited.
if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this potentially, we talked about needles going in arms on the bonus content that you're not going to get because YouTube will make it inoculation. Can I say inoculation?
You probably can.
Okay,
You
I
can
don't want
probably
to.
say, I'm going to say it, scene, just the words afterwards are bad. It can get you in
Right.
trouble.
Okay. So all of that stuff from this episode will be on there because all these things have an algorithm that will
Yeah.
potentially kick us
YouTube
off.
is
So,
stupid and can't tell when you're debunking a
yeah.
myth and when you're spreading a myth.
But that'll be on the $3 version, not the $10 version. I'm not gonna. The $10 version is where Matthew tends to do. Yep, like right there. It's blurred out
You
on
didn't
here, but
see
he
that.
did something. He did something absolutely disgusting. Yeah, so that's what the $10 version gets you. Also, here's a cool thing: Patreon is allowing us to do free subscribers, which means you will get those the episodes the same time period as if you were listening on Apple or Spotify or anything else. But it helps us all a lot too because apparently Patreon's been saying that a lot of people are growing well that way. So that would be great if you were doing
Yeah.
that
So
as
if you're
well.
not an iTunes, our Apple Podcast user, like the next best source is using Patreon. You can still use, I think, your
Yeah.
podcast catcher of choice to just get the RSS feed from Patreon instead of just searching for it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we didn't make Coleman stick around for this. This like
Because
you
he'd be
just
insulting you too.
maybe, but also like you couldn't we couldn't let me be funny in front of him at all.
I mean, I let you try, just,
Motherfucker. All right.
I
So Matthew, do you have any last thoughts on this?
do. I just want to reiterate, actually, check out triskept.org, the people who put on the Skepticamp. And they do like a virtual skeptics in the pub. It used to be live, but they're still concerned about COVID wisely. So they do a virtual meetup. So if you want to talk to skeptical people, they're based in the Triangle area of North Carolina, but they're part of a national or international organization. So there's a lot of good information and links on their website. That's
Yeah.
triskep.org, triskept.org, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, but I'll have the show in the show notes as well. The link.
But people who are driving right now you've got it in your head.
Yep.
Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today, like Coleman did, to talk about the big stuff. And don't believe everything you hear, even the things that Mike said.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.